So when you think about negative thinking, I'm sure you don't think about singing happy birthday. Um, does anything come to mind when you think about negative thinking?
When you put yourself down and don't look at yourself with very high self-esteem. Um, yeah.
Yeah, Janice, I could almost say that really kind of wraps it up. Yes. Did anyone else want to throw out another thought though at all? Well, in negative thinking, we're typically, oh, Pamela, yes, yes.
Just real quick, there's when they look for the negative in a situation,
Yeah, yeah,
they look past all the positive straight to whatever they can make negative. That's what goes through my head.
yeah, yeah. That's a really good one too. Thank you for that. Yeah, negative thinking is often this, we feel that we can't do something or something's impossible. Or kind of coming off of what Pamela just said, that we can tend to think that there's going to be something's going to end up with the worst outcome. And so it's always leaning to that doubtful worst outcome. And the thing I want to say, and I don't know why my mouse is going so crazy today, but the thing I want to say about negative thinking is that it's such a normal part of being human. And, the last thing that I would want anyone to think is that there's something wrong if you're thinking negative, because it's so normal. And B, that, you'll never, just because we learn techniques around managing it, that you'll never have another negative thought. That's certainly not the case, but we certainly can get better at managing our negative thinking. And why we want to address negative thinking is for that very reason, that we don't want to have it overwhelm us and always be in the driver's seat of our lives, if you like. Because there really are three critical impacts to negative thinking. And the first one is that it impacts our well-being. So if we look in the field of psychology and look at a lot of the research in neuroscience, what we learn around negative thinking is that not only does it impact our psychological well-being, but it also impacts our physical well-being. So we can feel stress and nervous or anxious or worry a lot if negative thinking is always at the forefront of our thinking. Secondly, and I'm going to spend a fair bit of time on this one when we get to the techniques, it really limits our perception. So when negative thinking takes over, if we've just had a negative thought or we're in a challenging situation, our perception can be so limited when negative thinking takes over, and we have real difficulty seeing our circumstance or our situation from another viewpoint. And there's the late John O'Donohue, who was an Irish philosopher, said, thinking that limits you denies you life. And I think that's so true. And lastly, negative thinking, if this is our go-to, if this is whenever we have a negative thought, or if something's a challenge or difficult, and we end up thinking negative around that, it gets ingrained in our brains. And this isn't just something to say, it's what we're learning more and more, especially in the field of neuroscience. So there's a saying that neurons that fire together wire together. So if our go-to is always negative thinking, especially when we're in challenges and difficulty, we teach our brains that, hey, anytime a challenge comes up, you need to think around it in a negative way. The good news is that we are going to learn is that we can actually change that. It's very possible to change that wiring in our brains. So in summary, then, we want to really address negative thinking because it impacts our well-being, it impacts our perception, and it can really get ingrained in our brains. But how would life be if we really did have a strategy to be able to overcome negative thinking? And we went from feeling the overload, the weight that it can often place on us, to being able to have a negative thought, but address it and feel more of a peace of mind. So just before I go into talking about the strategy and the techniques, are there any comments or questions that anybody wants to bring up just at this point before we dive into that? We're good to dive in. I'll stop along the way again.
I was gonna say it kind of robs you from, at this point, just the little that you've shared, really gonna rob you from just seeing things from a positive point of view. It just, like, that's not even in the picture if everything is going to be negative thinking.
Yes, I love that you said that, Mabel, because when you were saying that, I was thinking how when we're really lost in negative thinking and say it overtakes us, what happens is our thinking gets really small. And so you're right, Mabel, we don't really see things or view things from other possibilities because we're so in that small, you get so weighed down. It's almost like blinders come on and kind of holds you in the gray there. So that's a really good point that you make. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you for your comment there, Cheryl, about the brain and the peace sign. Okay, I am going to go back. Yeah, I would certainly rather be feeling that peace of mind, but it's possible, as we jump in, to learn to be able to have this occur to us. Oh, I'm having a negative thought. I know what to do with that. I know how to manage that. So what we're going to talk about now is talk about what I mean by a prompt. Then we'll go into the techniques. And then I'll talk about how we can make these techniques a practice, what helps